Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to this week's Astrology Weather Report. My goodness, this is the big one we've all been waiting for since last February. This is the eclipse week. When this video launches online, we will be 1 week out from the eclipse on the 3rd of July. So we can expect, especially if your personal planets are being triggered through this eclipse, we can expect that this week will hold significant momentous events that will shift the course of our lives. If we have significant planets in our chart that are receiving activation, like the ping pong machine, the pinball machine, bing, 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 things get lit up and struck by an eclipse making an aspect or being conjunct with or opposite to a natal planet. So you will start to notice things now in the week before an eclipse, if that's the case, and you will also notice a week after these sorts of things unfolding. So we're going to explore, what does it mean to have an eclipse for all of us in this coming video. And so that's really the gist of what we're looking at. There are other things unfolding in the chart, but there is nothing as significant as the eclipse energy that's playing out. So let me begin by explaining what an eclipse actually does. It happens to wake us up, and every 6 months we get a set of eclipses. There will be a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, and then 6 months will go by and there'll be another lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. Sometimes you can get you can have up to 6 in a year. Sometimes we get a little bit more than just the 4 eclipses a year, but generally speaking we get 4 eclipses in any given year. And what they do is shift us out of the momentum that we're on and push us into the trajectory that our soul has contracted to go towards before we incarnated. The purpose is to wake us up, to make us pay attention. Are we just fluffing our way through life, or are we actually living with intention, heading towards our destiny and our goals and our dreams that our soul longs to achieve? So you can expect surprises with an eclipse. You can expect being shaken out of a rut. You can expect changing gears. Like this will be particularly for people who are having planets triggered by the eclipse, this will be a changing of gears, out of first gear, up to second, sometimes even into third, maybe fourth. Really, life can suddenly, boom, take off, and we stop spinning our wheels after an eclipse. So it is a very exciting time. Now in this video I'm going to talk more about some of the things that unfold for us at eclipses. Eclipses occur when the sun and the moon make a connection with the nodes of the moon. Now the nodes of the moon, for those who don't know, it's not a visible point in the sky. It's the position in the sky mathematically where the sun's trajectory and the moon's trajectory cross. And so when we have, this is the north node, this one's the south node, when the sun hits the south node or comes within close proximity of the south node, and the moon is there as well, essentially making a new moon. That's what a solar eclipse is. It's a new moon in connection with one of the nodes, either the north node or the south node. We get an eclipse. Now this eclipse on the 3rd of July will be a partial eclipse. It's not going to be, fully the moon blocking out the sun. It will only happen partially, and that's because there's a bit of a distance between these. The sun and the moon are making a new moon at 10 degrees. I'll write that on there. 10 degrees of Cancer, and the nodes are currently at 17 degrees of Cancer. So they're 7 degrees apart from one another, but that's still close enough proximity to be causing an eclipse. So what does that mean for us? Well, do you have any planets at either 10 degrees of Cancer, where the new moon is occurring, or at 17 degrees of Cancer, where the nodes sit? Either of those points is going to get triggered by this eclipse. So do you have any planets there in your natal chart? Do you know your natal chart? If you don't know your natal chart, Lada on Astrolada has a wonderful chart calculator. You can utilize that, or you can go to astro.com, type in your birth details. You need to know your time of birth. Type all the details in. You can bring up a chart for yourself. So if you've got planets there at 17 degrees of Cancer or 10 degrees of Cancer, or at 17 degrees where the South Node sits of Capricorn, or 10 degrees of Capricorn, hope you can read my little fiddly writing there, 10 degrees of Capricorn, they are also going to get a triggering through this eclipse. Also, so because they'll be opposite, they'll be making an opposition to either of those degrees, 17 or 10 degrees, or, bang, if you happen to have a planet, the sun, the moon, or your ascendant sign as well, at 10 degrees of Libra, or 17, that's a bit wrong, but 17 degrees of Libra, or 10 degrees of Pisces, sorry, Aries, not Pisces, or 17 degrees of Aries, they will also be getting a triggering through this eclipse. Now we can allow what we call in astrology an orb. An orb is a bit of a variance. So instead of, if just say you had the sun at 20 degrees of Libra, that's within orb because it's 1, 2, 3 degrees away from that 17 degree point where the nodes are sitting. So I would allow no more than 3 degrees in orb. So if you've got the sun at 20 degrees Libra or a planet at 20 degrees Libra, that's getting a triggering through being within orb of that 17 degree point. So look in your chart. Do you have any planets around the 10 degree mark or the 17 degree mark, thereabouts, give or take 3 degrees, in Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, or Libra? Take a look, and if you've got something there, you can expect that this solar eclipse that's occurring on the 3rd of July, this is the first of the 2 eclipses that are coming up in July, you can expect that it will impact your life in some way. Now it will depend on which planet is sitting at that point, what that planet represents generally, and what that planet represents in your chart personally. And of course I can't go into detail about what every planet and every chart rulership represents, but we'll talk generally about some of the things that may unfold for you if you are getting a triggering through this eclipse time. Keep in mind your ascendant is also an important point to note, probably the most important point to note as well. So just for clarity's sake, let's take my arrow, my rising sign arrow, that's what that is, off Leo. Let's pop it on, say, Cancer. So if you happen to have your ascendant there, that's my rising sign arrow for people who aren't familiar with my videos yet. But if your ascendant degree, your rising degree falls around one of these points, it's also going to be very impactful for you, this eclipse. So what does it mean? What does it mean to have an eclipse falling on an important point on our chart? The sun, if it's falling on our sun, if it's falling on our moon or our ascendant, it's going to impact us the most. But the other planets will also get a bit of an upheaval. So the eclipse, as I said, this eclipse is a solar eclipse where the sun is going to be partially obscured by the moon. The moon moves across between, this is the representative of the earth, and the moon moves between the sun and the earth and casts a shadow so that we can't see the sun. That's what a solar eclipse is. It's where the sun, the solar energy, is eclipsed by the moon's energy or the moon's shadow. And it's like a new moon, except the energy that we feel, that we experience as human beings on this earthly plane is going to be 3 times in magnitude compared to that of an ordinary new moon. So it's a new moon on steroids, so to speak. Times it by 3. It's a new moon with 3 times as much power as a new moon would ordinarily have. And what does a new moon bring? New beginnings, new starts. It's a manifestation of change, of a move in direction, of establishing something new, of sowing new seeds for our life. So if this eclipse is sitting within proximity, within orb of a personal planet or a point in your chart, you can expect a momentous event in your life occurring, a major turning point. And this often will relate to the planet that rules. Just say the moon rules Cancer. So if your moon sat here, it would rule, in this case, your first house. I'm probably confusing things by going into that, so I'll pull back from that. But there is often a relationship between what the planet rules in the chart and what unfolds for you. So let me give an example. I have a friend who's going to be getting a triggering from this eclipse. This friend of mine has been very unwell for a good portion of his life. Very, very, very unwell with problems of addiction and so forth, which is ruled by the 12th house. Now, this person has Mars sitting bang on at 17 degrees Cancer. Mars happens to rule his 12th house of addiction and being addicted. So when this eclipse occurs, it's going to be occurring on his Mars, and in his personal chart it rules, it's his 12th house of addiction. Now, if you don't know what things rule, if you're new to astrology and you know this doesn't make sense to you, feel free to get a reading. I do offer 1-question readings if people would like those. I am actually going to be unavailable though for this eclipse season to provide this. But for future reference, if you would like to know what everything rules in your chart, what's correlating to what, feel free to get a reading. And in the meantime, for this eclipse, you might like to seek out another astrologer who, I'm not available because I'm away, but another astrologer who can help you go through what these things rule. But if you are familiar with astrology, then you will be able to know, okay, in the case of my friend, Mars rules his house of addiction. It's getting a triggering from this eclipse. So what could happen? He might have some kind of a momentous event that occurs in his life correlating to, we're all hoping for, something to do with his addictive patterns. So maybe, fingers crossed, he gets inspired to go to rehab. Or maybe it could be that somebody comes along and enters into his life who's going to take care of him and help him recover from his problems. Or maybe he gets a sudden inspiration to do something different in his life and to sort of, walk away completely. Maybe Mars is also courage and being the hero, being the winner, and he might suddenly get triggered with personal courage, personal valor, personal heroism, and going and making the necessary changes himself without rehab, without outer support. So it could, we're all hoping that that's what the eclipse will bring this very dear friend of mine who's going to be getting a triggering from the eclipse. But you might have a planet there that connects with your the area of your life connected to home, like physical home or family. You might get inspired to get a new home. You might go start looking at real estate pages, or the dream house that you've always had your eye on and wished it would come up for sale. You open the paper the week before the eclipse, bang, there it is for sale, and it's at a price you can afford. Oh my God, go for it. The eclipse can bring in some momentous life change. Major turning point. It can correlate to anything in life. It can correlate to partnership. It can correlate to moving house. It can correlate to a brand new job, or losing a job. Now, last last eclipse in July last year, I lost a job because of the eclipse falling on my sun, which rules my 6th house of everyday ordinary work and routines. And that was quite a shock to me. But the blessing that came out of that was that suddenly I could steer my life towards my dreams, my goals, my aspirations, because I had more time. I wasn't bogging myself down in a job that was just going through the motions and that was not really a career trajectory for me at all. So the universe brought blessing, even though at first it felt a little bit off, a little bit like, how can this be happening? This is not right. So just know that there will be some momentous shift in momentum for you at the time of the eclipse if you have a planet being triggered. Now something could also, like I've just described through that illustration, be ending in order to make space for the new beginning that is waiting to come into your life. So what is occurring is that something is ending to make space for the new to enter in. Solar eclipses are about new beginnings. It's a new moon. New moons are about new beginnings. Solar eclipses are also about new beginnings, something starting fresh. But in order to start something fresh, there's often space that needs to be made, you know? Job has to go so that the fresh start can come in. So something getting out of the way to make space for the new to enter in, a new beginning to start. That's what solar eclipses are about. Now in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be talking about the lunar eclipse that'll be occurring over here. And that's a full moon eclipse. I'll talk more about that at the time. But lunar eclipses, they are actually all about fruitions and endings. So both of these eclipses are going to be very potent and very powerful for new beginnings and and endings as well. The lunar eclipse is going to be very different to the solar eclipse, so tune in about 2 weeks for more information about that. So this is an eclipse that has to do with making a new start, making a new beginning, starting something fresh. It will also bring in something that you weren't expecting. Just like my son last year brought in the loss of a job that was completely out of the blue, completely unexpected and unfounded, I might add. Also, like way back about, gosh, 20 years ago now, exactly 20 years, I met my husband, my ex-husband, the week after an eclipse on my ascendant. So that's another example of something that you weren't expecting coming into your life. I'd been single all my life, never had a boyfriend before. And then bang, 23 years old, met a man who 6 months later I became engaged to. So it was that quick, that sudden. And I met him the week after an eclipse on my ascendant. Our ascendants were very close together. He's Pisces rising as well. We both had an eclipse on our ascendant because they were in proximity of one another. So we both had an eclipse on our ascendant and it brought us together. The same can happen for you if your ascendant happens to fall here, or your descendant, 10 degrees or 17 degrees. That could happen for you as well. The love of your life, well, not that he's the love of my life, but certainly a potential committed partnership or a marriage partnership could enter your life on an eclipse. So it'll be something that you weren't necessarily expecting, that you weren't looking for, that you are completely shocked by. So it's often a shocking or a surprising event that is actually designed to expose the truth within us and help us align with our soul's greater intent. So it's a bit like a Uranus transit actually, but suddenly, you know, and Uranus brings sudden things as well, but Uranus's transits, here's Uranus at the moment. Uranus's transits through a sign takes 7 years to unfold and to bring the fruition. An eclipse happens, bang, a sudden, shocking event that occurs, and suddenly your life, which was going down this road, takes a fork and goes boom, off 90-degree angle to the left. You thought you had a job and then suddenly you don't. You were single and then suddenly you're not. You were, you know, your home you thought was safe and secure and sound, suddenly you're moving house to your dream home, you know. Big momentous, sudden, shocking shifts. So just the thing to remember with that is that even when things feel like they're out of control, like they did for me last year, losing a job, a part-time job, the eclipses do have our back, and they are for our highest good. They are for our greater soul's development and to help us head into our destiny point, which is our north node in our natal chart. So if something happens and it feels like, oh my God, what just happened then? Trust it. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Trust when everything's falling apart. Trust when things go wrong. Trust when things don't feel right. How do you do that? Well, it's one of the great dilemmas of life. That's actually a very Neptunian thing. Neptune calls us to trust even when nothing is happening in our life, even when life is empty, even when life is dry or things are going to the juice. Neptune energy calls us to keep trusting. It's actually one of the biggest lessons we can learn in life, to keep trusting that the best is yet to come. So the eclipses kind of encourage us to do that. It can bring in sudden, momentous, shocking, brilliant events like meeting a new lover, like getting a new job, finding a new home could be wonderful like that. Or it can bring in things that are like, oh my God, I just lost my job. Oh gosh, we've got to get out of our home and we've got 2 weeks to find a new place to stay. Things like that. So trust when things don't seem to be going right, that the universe has your back, because what is actually occurring is that space is being made to help you rise into a greater destiny. So something's got to go so that the good stuff can come in. Trust it. Now, all these shocking events, if you like, or big surprise events, will be occurring either the week before or the week after the eclipse. So keep your eye out for this coming week and also the week after the eclipse. But not only then, because the week after the eclipse, we then move into the territory of the next eclipse. So basically, we're looking at a whole month from now, when we might have even a bit longer than that, when we might have some momentous event that comes in and shakes us up. Now, also at the time of an eclipse, people's true motives will be revealed and illuminated. They will be exposed for who they are, and that happened very definitely for me last July eclipses. On my sun, you find out the true nature of people. Often people are pretty good at, putting on a mask that's acceptable to society, pretending to be a certain way so that people will like them or whatever. But at an eclipse, their true motives, their true intent, the true nature of their soul is exposed and revealed. So that can sometimes be not very pleasant to discover that. You can be very disappointed in people, or your illusions about people are shattered. So just that can be a thing. Don't be surprised if that pops up. But whatever occurs also at the time of eclipse, an eclipse cannot be undone. And what I mean by that is it's going to bring, whatever it brings in is permanent. So my job loss, permanent, not going back there. My status as a single woman before I had the eclipse occur on my ascendant, I didn't go back until quite a few years later. We're talking 10, 11 years after that, I became single again. So there is a permanent shift that will last a long time through the eclipse, whatever the eclipse brings. So just say you lose a boyfriend or a girlfriend and somebody dumps you. Again, they're revealed for what they are, and you're let down and like, oh, well, that didn't work out. And you're hoping in your heart of hearts, oh, I hope we get back together and maybe he'll come back to me, or maybe she'll call me up again and, we can go out on another date. And no, if you lose a relationship or something around an eclipse and it's triggering one of your planets, you can expect that relationship will not return into your life. It will be over. Also, last July, August eclipses, I'd been dating a guy for 3 months, and a week after the latter eclipse in that set of eclipses, he called it off. I still don't know why. and that was the end of that. But I knew, okay, the eclipse has occurred. He's not coming back. Haven't heard from him since, not a word. So it's interesting, and it's sometimes not easy to bear, but the eclipses bring in a permanent change that will usually not be undone. So if that happens for you, know that you've got to move forward and move on as quickly as possible for your mental health and well-being. Don't sit there pining, oh, when's he coming back? Why can't I, have him back again? Or I want that job back, or, don't. Just go, rightio, dust off my, what's that old biblical term? Shake the dust off your shoes, or rid yourself of that energy and move forward. Keep going, because the longer you pine, the more wasted time there is that's stopping you from moving into the greater destiny. Know that with an eclipse, it's usually permanent. Okay, now if it happens to be, the eclipse happens to be occurring on your birthday, that's what happened for me last year, or your ascendant. So if it's happening on, if an eclipse is happening on your birthday, essentially it's happening on your sun. The eclipse will be occurring on the sun position in your chart. Or if the eclipse is happening on your ascendant, then you need to be very careful of your vitality, your energy, your life force. The February eclipses that occurred just recently, I'm just using examples out of my life. The February eclipses that occurred just recently, they gave me, they occurred on my sun, which is in my 6th house. So sun is vitality and life force energy, happening in 6th house of disease and illness. And I got a throat and lung infection out of that prevented me working properly for 6 weeks. What the purpose of that was, I couldn't tell you, but that's one of the things that came up with this eclipse. We need to watch our vitality, care for our health and well-being. Don't overdo it. Don't push yourself. Don't stress yourself out. Don't stay up till 2 a.m. doing work every night for 3 weeks and then catch, some flu or something because you're so run down. Watch your vitality around this time if the eclipse is going to be occurring on either your sun or your ascendant, okay? And also don't start anything new until after July, if you can at all manage it. Because new ventures that you undertake at this time, they're going to hold the energy of this eclipse in their beginning chart. When we begin something new, we essentially set up a whole brand new astrological chart that will run with that endeavor. It will play out with that endeavor. So you want the healthiest chart you can manifest possible, to open a new shop, to launch a new book, to start a new business, anything like that. You want a really good chart supporting a brand new venture, and that's called electional astrology. We astrologers offer those services if anyone is looking to establish a new business or set up a get married, find a date to get married, those sorts of things. These are services astrologers can provide to help you find the best time, the best day to make a new start with something, so that the chart will be supportive and beneficial and helpful for you into the future with whatever that brand new beginning, that brand new endeavor is. But back to the eclipse. Throughout July, the energy of this eclipse is going to be in the ether out there. So I would hold off establishing anything new for this month, because you'll be carrying the energy of the eclipse in that new venture chart. Now, not that an eclipse it's not always bad. Sometimes eclipses are absolutely beautiful and bring glorious light-filled love and blessing into our lives. But the thing is, they're a bit unpredictable. So you could have a really successful business if you established it with an eclipse chart, but equally it could flip the other way and you could have just the most horrific time ever. So it's so unpredictable, I would just avoid dealing with it altogether. And the reason it's unpredictable, not really the reason, but the mythology behind an eclipse is that the nodes of the moon are represented in ancient Indian astrology by a dragon that's been cut in half. And the north node of the moon here, it's the head of the dragon. It's insatiable, it wants more. Yum, 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 give me more, eat, eat, eat. It's the head of the dragon, you know, put the food in. And the tail of the dragon is obviously the opposite, where you let go of, you poo it out, you release, you know, comes out the other end. But the dragon head tail has been cut in half. And I've shared this on many readings and in many videos, but I grew up on a farm girl. Sound a bit like Cam out of Modern Family, don't I? But I grew up on a farm, and I have seen many snakes cut in half. Australia's very famous for its poisonous snakes. And watching, it is really horrible, but watching them die, they wriggle and squirm and flip and flop for a good 10 minutes after they've been cut in half. And so, you know, you stand back well out of the way. You just you don't know whether they're going to flip towards you and bite onto your leg, or, you know, you just keep well back. Same with the eclipses. This is like a snake cut in half, and it's flipping and it's flopping, and you don't know which way it's going to flip flop. It might come and bite you, or it might, I don't know where the blessing would be, but the blessing might come, but it's so unpredictable, it's just better to get right out of the way. Same with establishing something new. Just get right out of the way. Don't even try, if you can manage it, until after July is over and the eclipses are done. So August should be fine. You'll be able to go for it, start something new then. So this goes for new relationships, new businesses, new contracts, new projects. I know that can be hard if you had your heart set on a July wedding or something. You know, if you want to, you can go for it and hope for the best and pray for the best and invite the best energy in that you can. But if you are looking to start something new and you actually have a choice about the matter, then try and stretch it out until August. That would be my recommendation. Now, eclipses falling on progressed planets. The progressed chart's a different chart to the birth chart for each individual. It's a very unique chart as well. But eclipses falling on progressed planets can be impactful as well. So make sure you check if you have any progressed planets at either 10 degrees or 17 degrees of Libra, Capricorn, Aries, or Cancer. Okay, so double check that. Yes, and if you're over, sorry, I'm just checking my notes. And if you're over 40 to 45, particularly over 45, check your 9th divisional chart as well. Because as we get older, and I'm hoping I'll be offering a reading of the 9th divisional chart when I return from my overseas trip. That'll be one of the offerings that I have in the future. If we're over 45, the 9th divisional chart is the chart we are emerging into, growing into. We aren't born with the intent to stay stagnant in our birth chart. We are evolving beings. We are growing. We are hopefully heading up the ladder of enlightenment, expanding, increasing in consciousness and awareness, and heading into our 9th divisional chart. We're a growing being. And we're becoming our 9th divisional chart. So if you're over age 45, I would check to see if this eclipse is triggering anything at 17 degrees of these signs in your 9th divisional chart as well, because you could see more momentum towards your destiny in the 9th divisional chart unfolding for you with the eclipse falling on that point as well. So that is what we're looking at with the coming eclipses. Keep an eye out for when I return in about 2 weeks' time. I'll be sharing about this 9th divisional reading that I am hoping to offer in the future. That will be particularly relevant for people who are over 45 to look at what they are becoming and what life is now going to look like for them as they move into their latter end of their life, but that's not really right. The second half, the second act of their life, essentially. I'm one of those people, so, you know, no offense taken when I say the latter half of life. The second act. So this is what's unfolding with the eclipses. Once again, just to repeat, check your chart, check your progress chart, check your 9th divisional chart if you're over 45. Any planets here at 17 or 10 degrees, Aries, Cancer, Libra or Capricorn, check it out, because the eclipse will be having a potent effect on you if you've got any planets there. So I want to wish you all the love in the world, all the blessing in the world through these eclipses. It is an exciting time. I am actually having a triggering going on with both these coming eclipses as well, so I'll be sharing this experience with you. This is going to fall on my Saturn and Mercury, so it's going to be very interesting to see which way the energy flip-flops for me, and I know it will for you as well. So feel free to share in the comments section what unfolds for you in and around the 3rd of July, so that we can all learn, all grow, all increase in wisdom through our experience and how astrology plays out for us. So now let's just quickly go through where the eclipses are falling for each rising sign. The most important factor is if the eclipse is falling on a planet, a personal planet, and what that planet rules in your personal chart. But it is still going to be playing out for us all in a certain arena of life. Some of us will feel it strongly in that arena. Some of us won't bat an eyelid. There won't be any change. But we'll explore it just the same. Knowledge is power. So let's start with the usual. Let's start with Aries. So for people with Aries as their rising sign, the eclipse is playing out in their 4th house and their 10th house. So you might experience a feeling of change of momentum energetically in relation to your work, your social status, your sense of achievement in the world, or it might be correlating to your home, your family, maybe something to do with your heritage, your ancestry, your roots, your lineage. You might even uncover some heavy emotional baggage or experiences, because this is the house of our deep emotions, so that can come up and into play for you in your life somehow or other. You might be addressing heavy emotions at this time. Taurus rising puts this eclipse trajectory energy in the 9th house and the 3rd house. So this is going to be affecting areas of communication, learning, teaching, thinking, how we're thinking, how we write, how we speak. It may connect to publishing. It can also connect to small business, and also the mentors that we have and the traveling that we are doing. So if you're Taurus rising, there might be a shift in energy regarding traveling. You might get some sort of a new trajectory with a new business idea, or there might be a new beginning with a business idea. Remember, a solar eclipse connects to new beginnings in life. So it might be new beginnings in a business idea, or you might get an idea for a new book you want to write, or you might get a new mentor or inspirational figure. 9th house come into your life. You might be inspired to go and travel somewhere or do some sort of cultural experiences. You might be have a new connection with someone who becomes a father type figure to you, father type mentor, inspirational figure, or it could happen in realms that are to do with learning. You might become a teacher, you might meet a new teacher. These sorts of areas of life could get triggered if you're Taurus rising. If you are Gemini rising, then this is falling on your 8th house, 2nd house axis. Now the 8th house, 2nd house axis will have to do with resources. So there will be some new beginning, some change, some new direction that can unfold regarding the resources that you create for yourself, and also the resources that you experience from others. 2nd house is your resources, 8th house is other people's resources. So you can expect change or some different momentum in those areas. You might also have a change in your sex life. 8th house is our sex life. There might be some alterations there, some new beginnings there. You might also have some alterations regarding your experience of pleasure and self-worth, which is 2nd house. So there might be a shift in how you value yourself and how you honor yourself. These are some of the ways that it can play out for Gemini rising. The eclipse for Cancer rising, well, of course it's falling in your 1st house, 7th house axis. So this can fall into almost any field of life. The first house is how you move through this incarnation. You might find that there is a shift in what you do for a living, how you survive and thrive. Your relationships with other people could change. Seventh house is relationships. You might find that there's a shift in or a new beginning or some sort of momentum change with regard to a business partnership that you're in, or collaboration, or some sort of diplomatic situation that you're involved in. You might find that your ability to survive goes through a bit of a change. And as I said in the intro to this, when I had an eclipse occur on my ascendant, I met my partner. I believe Lada had an eclipse. I could be wrong, but I believe she had an eclipse on her ascendant when she got pregnant with both her children, because the eclipses fell within proximity both times. And yeah, and so there's this big shift in how your life is unfolding, and the way you're doing life will now alter and change. So that's the momentum for Cancer rising. For Leo rising people, it's falling in their 12th house, 6th house axis. So watch your health and well-being with this 6th house axis being activated. You know, take care of yourself, look after your vitality and well-being in the 6th house. You guys will probably find that there are some karmic experiences that are cropping up in your life, you know, deja vu, like, oh, I've been here before, what's going on, this feels so familiar to me, I feel like I know you from somewhere. If you meet somebody, that's sort of that very karmic stuff. It's a house of healing, the 6th house, and so is the 12th house, healing through practical measures, healing through divine intervention. So you can experience healing at this time through an eclipse on this angle. Equally, you can experience loss. The 12th house is loss, so you might lose some weight, or you might lose some, you know, lose an enemy. You might, worst case scenario, lose a little bit of money, or pay out some money onto something that you didn't expect you would have to. Losses are seen by the 12th house for good or ill. And yeah, watch your pets. Check in on the pets, make sure that they're all healthy and well, and they're getting good food, and they're, you know, warm enough and comfortable enough. Look after your pets, because pets are seen by the 6th house. That could be affected by this eclipse as well. Virgo rising is going to have this effect occurring in their 5th house, 11th house. Watch your friendships. Watch or invest in your friendships. Take care and nurture your friendships at this time. Also, lovers, children. Look after your children. Connect with your children. You might find some changes to the relationship you have with your children occur around this time. Maybe some dynamic shifts. Children might leave home. There might be some kind of a, you know, they go and maybe they decide they want to do 50-50 time with their dad and 50-50 time with you, so they're sort of sharing their time if you're separated or divorced or that sort of thing, and they're old enough to make a decision for themselves. So there can be some shifts in momentum with children, with lovers, and with friendships and large groups of people for Virgo rising. Okay, Libra rising people, this is occurring on your obviously on your 10th house, 4th house axis, same as for Aries rising. It's going to affect you in realms of career, social status and achievement, home, heritage, roots, lineage and ancestors. So you might experience some sort of very big connection to your ancestral line at this time. You might suddenly decide you want to look more into your, you know, you want to get one of those ancestry.com tests and find out where you come from, and it might get sudden shock because, oh my God, I had no idea, but I've got Eskimo in me or something like that. You know, there will be maybe a sudden shock, something that you weren't expecting regarding some heritage, some roots, some lineages, and also regarding career as well. You might get a career shift or a career opportunity that comes your way, a new beginning that is established through career if you're Libra rising. If you are Scorpio rising, then you can this is a general, not going specific, you know, you need to see where the placements are in your chart, the planets are, about what specifically is going to be unraveling for you. But generally speaking, The eclipse for you guys is occurring on the 3rd house, 9th house axis. So you might have new beginnings with some new mentor that comes into your life, some new father figure type person, maybe a new teacher. You might be given an opportunity to teach that suddenly comes your way. You might be given a chance to learn something new, to establish a new business, to travel to a new country, or do some sort of travel that you weren't expecting before for the purposes of soul and spiritual expansion. You might discover some new belief system. It's like a light bulb moment. Aha, I finally understand this philosophy or this piece of insight. So there's some sort of aha moment that can arise through beliefs and cultural understandings as well that can occur. All right, if you are Saggy rising, this is putting the energy in the 8th house, 2nd house axis for you. So what this can mean is there can be a new beginning or a shift that can unfold for you regarding your resources that you create in your life, or the resources you receive from another person. So this could mean an inheritance that might suddenly come your way. You weren't even thinking that you would even stand a chance, and suddenly you inherit, I don't know, $50,000 from a great long lost aunt or something. It's some sudden unexpected thing that comes your way through this eclipse related to other people's finances or your own finances. Your own finances might shift in some way. Maybe you did a brilliant project 2 years ago and now the rewards come back to you. You suddenly get some sort of promotion, or probably not a promotion with this placement, but some sort of financial gain or recognition financially from something that you've done. So you guys for Sagittarius rising can see some shifts and new beginnings with regard to resources and finances, and also self-worth and self-valuing in the 2nd house, and sexuality and your sexual experience and relationships in the 8th house. So Capricorn rising, similar to Cancer rising, it's going to be a shift in the overall trajectory of your life. The relationship could come in for you. There could be a sudden new beginning with relationships or partnerships. Some sort of marriage proposal might occur. You might get a new business partnership that comes your way that's really beneficial. There could also be a new way to survive and thrive. The 1st house is where we survive, where we thrive on our body's journey through life. So something might come to you that enables you to survive and thrive. It's also the house of the body, so there could be some shifts in physicality for you. You know, watch your health and well-being once again. Watch your body's, you know, don't treat your body casually. Like, honor it, take care of it. Really bless your body. If you're Capricorn or Cancer rising for that matter as well, both of you guys. But yeah, honoring your body, because there could be some shift or change regarding your body and your physical health at this time with the eclipse. Okay, Aquarius rising people, it's generally speaking, the eclipse is playing out in your 6th house, 12th, is that going to stay? Yeah, the 6th house, 12th house axis. So physical well-being again is an issue here. You guys need to watch the 6th house area of life, which is connected to diseases and illnesses. So, you know, don't go staying up till 2 a.m. for 3 weeks or something in a row trying to get work done and then come down with the worst cold you've ever seen. You know, honor yourself, look after your body at this time. Be very, very careful, because 6th house is connected to physical well-being and routines. Also look after your pets. This is a house of pets, so make sure they're all comfy and cozy and well fed and looked after and medicated where appropriate. If they need it, look after your pets at the time of the eclipse, because there can be sudden, like, you might get a new pet. You might suddenly find that you've been looking for like a golden retriever for years and years, and you just haven't been able to find one that, you know, felt right, and then suddenly the eclipse occurs and in comes this brand new pet, this member of your family, little golden retriever puppy or something like that into your life. So cute. In the 12th house, you could find a sudden beginning or sudden some sort of shift or sudden shock event that could be positive or negative that will occur maybe karmically for you. 12th house is karma. You might be having lots of deja vu experiences, suddenly feeling like, ooh, tingles down my spine. Someone's just walked over my grave, or some sort of very momentous karmic unfolding for you if you're Aquarius rising. There can also be maybe a sudden shock regarding being able to retreat and escape from life. Maybe you've been feeling like life's just too much, it's too heavy right now, I can't cope anymore. You might suddenly get an offer. Hey, your girlfriend says, hey, let's go travel to India and visit this ashram or something, or let's go to a wellness retreat for a weekend, and you're like, oh my god, that's just what I need. There can be something suddenly out of the blue that gives you the opportunity to escape and reconnect with yourself, reconnect with your spiritual well-being. That's very 12th house. So if something like that comes up, it could be out of the blue, could be unexpected, and it could also be a real blessing for you if you're Aquarius rising. And finally, little old Pisces. This is 5th house. 5th house, 11th house. So this could mean sudden changes, sudden shifts with regard to friendships, friendship circles, large groups of people, the dynamic that you have with large groups of people, internet networks, YouTube channels, social media, websites, all that sort of thing, any type of research opportunities that could be getting a sudden shock, a sudden shift. Anything that's progressive and visionary could suddenly change momentum and head off in a new direction for you. So like if you're someone like me who's Pisces rising and has a YouTube channel, suddenly you might find, boom, after the eclipse, things just go berserk, go really great, or it implodes, collapses, and that's the end of the story. It could go either way, but it'll happen suddenly, unexpectedly, and out of the blue around the time of the eclipse. Or it could be playing out in your 5th house. 5th house is to do with, to do with children, with lovers, with pleasure, fun, joy, hobbies, happiness. So 5th house could mean a sudden shock or a sudden change or something unexpected in those realms. Something with your children changes. Look out. Something with regard to your love life changes. Maybe you've been single for 9 years and along comes the love of your life. You fall in love with the eclipse. Or maybe the love of your life leaves. Who knows? But whatever occurs, it'll be sudden, it'll be unexpected, it'll be out of the blue. And the purpose of an eclipse is clearing away what's holding you back so that you can rise into your beautiful, wonderful destiny that is awaiting you, should you choose to embrace that energy. And on that note, it's probably appropriate to now end with a little prayer. Energy of love, we thank you for the eclipses and the chance that they bring us to rise further into our destiny, to create a better life and to bring in the fullness of the experience we had the intent to receive before we incarnated. So I personally want to open up my heart to be available to whatever needs to happen. And I pray for everyone listening to this video that they too will be open to the energy of the universe, bringing them their higher good through this momentous, game-changing shift in energy that is occurring this month. So we ask for support where we need it. We ask for joy where we can receive it. And we thank you for the blessing that the planets bring through nothing ever staying the same, through helping us to rise up into our destiny and climb the evolutionary ladder. And so it is. Thank you so much for joining me this week, and we'll have another astrology weather report for you next week.